Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to another installation of Simon's New York Stories. And I'm wearing a Cro-Mags shirt because I ran into, about a week ago, I ran into the original singer of the Cro-Mags, Eric Casanova. And I ran into him, and I'm so happy to see him alive and well. It was good to see him. He always had time for me, man. He'd always stop and say hello, and it was good to see him. And I also ran into Milo, the drummer from the Worms, the same day. So it was a good day. I was in Manhattan. I'm gonna start playing Manhattan more. If any of you want to come to shows, I'm gonna start. I'm trying to really, you know, get back in and play Manhattan. Uh, Brooklyn too stuck up for me, man. You know, Brooklyn's a little fucking too fancy for me. But Manhattan, for some reason, I don't know. I just want to get back in there. I got some shows coming up at Otto's Shrunken Head and Parkside, and what we have here, 25 albums out, and then we got the virtual tips. Not that anybody's tipping me. I'm really not doing this for money. I'm not. I'm really not doing it for the fucking money or anything like. You know, and then 25 albums out. Soon to be, we'll have 26 out pretty soon. So yeah, we Milo told me Curtis played on that last record with one lung, and they had removed his lung. He had lung cancer, and he came in with one lung and played, and that was the last time he ever played because he died about 3 months later. He died, and Curtis was kind of like the adult in the whole band. Curtis and Holly. Holly was always on a very even keel, and Curtis too. Like I said, Curtis was the first. Curtis and Charles were the first two musicians I met that didn't drink or do drugs or smoke or anything, and I really do kind of owe it to them because they kind of planted the seed in my mind that you don't have to use to play rock and roll. So Curtis died, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I've been through my father dying like 5 years before, and Tyrone dying, and I really didn't know how to cope with it. We had a couple of other sax players. We had this one guy I can't remember. He went on the. Then we got John Chapin, and he was a good player too. But Curtis kind of kept us all like, you know, he kind of kept us all fucking chilled out. Like I could be an asshole, I'll tell you. I got my idea how I think things should go and how the world should be, and I don't understand that there's this thing called reality, and when I don't when things don't go the way I think they should go, I tend to just fucking flip out. It's like I'm fucked up. So Curtis would kind of tell me to cut the crap. You know what I mean? And so then Greg got in that car crash, and he was getting increasingly dependent on drugs, and he had this girlfriend who I don't got nothing against her. She's all right, but she was into it too. So they went into that kind of cocoon thing. So we weren't really hearing from Greg that much. He used to come down to all the shows, and he'd be there in his wheelchair, and he'd be there cheering us on. So then one of the guys in the band crashed our van into a car driven by an off-duty cop. So we were then getting sued, and then we were just in all this shit going on. Meanwhile, I was trying to stay away from the real hard drugs. Once in a while, I would dabble with a little bit, but I was trying to stay away from them. And I was always kind of a pothead. And now there was this huge pot drought. You couldn't get pot. Nobody could get any. The government was cracking down on it, like Ronald Reagan, and all them fucking humps were cracking down on it. It's not like now where it was legal and you can get it. You really had to fucking look hard to get it, and you had to know somebody and blah blah. So it wasn't easy to get. And so I had a good connection for a while, and then that dried up. He couldn't get any more. Nobody could get any more, and it started to be like you'd have to pay double, triple. And I never really made any money. I was so stupid. Nightingales, I should have asked, Tony for a fucking raise. The owner, I should have asked him for us getting a raise. I mean, I always joke, I'm playing $50 gigs now, and I was playing $50 gigs back then. And so the thing is, I didn't realize like how dependent I was on using. So like when I couldn't get anything, it really started fucking with me. Like I couldn't get anything, and I was like, oh, let me try drinking normal guys drink. I could just be like a normal all-American beer drinking male with a beer, like be like a regular guy. And no, it just beer just made me fucking tired, and then if I drank enough of it, I would just throw up. Those are the two things beer did for me. Just made me fucking tired. That's it. So, we were gonna tour in the summer, and we couldn't tour. We didn't have a van or anything, and so we were trying to get back on the road and get our shit together. So we kind of were right then. We were just playing Nightingales every weekend. We were kind of coasting. You know what I mean? And the whole band was coasting. Like we weren't rehearsing. Nobody was writing new songs. I was trying to get us to get together and write new songs. I was trying to get us to rehearse, and it was like impossible. I couldn't get everybody together. I was trying, and there was always something at the last minute, something to do, and it was like I kind of felt to where like nobody found it important to fucking keep pushing the band along. I mean, we have a lot of good songs. We had good. If I look at our set list now, it was like 42 songs or something. Like now, my set list is like 372 songs or something. But we did have our songs, and we had enough. We had enough like. But we were kind of coasting, and bands do that once in a while. They go through this really creative period, and then they'll coast, and then they'll kind of recharge their shit. But I was getting frustrated. I was checking out like Link Ray and Bobby Fuller and all the surf music, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing, making surf records. Uh, and I did that at Jeff McBride, and then with Jono at his studio. They both had like 8-track tape studios. So I made this like surf stuff. It's out now. It's on Bug Bite Daddy, and some of it's on Department of Corruption. Did it with Tommy from the Pop Tones. Like I said, Zahn was deteriorating, so it was kind of frustrating. That's right when 2 Minutes Hate really took off, because they were sick of waiting around for Zahn. And then my kid's mom was playing in that band. So then we decided we got to get a tour. We got to put it together. And Jono was fucking always really great at this shit. He got us in a tour. And baby mama put up the money. This like old moving van that I remember we were out on the street, and we made a barrier behind this. We made a seat, like a big wooden bench. You could sit on it or sleep on it, so you could like lie down. I figure if we got nowhere to stay, if you just get really tired, go in it, and then the barrier would keep the equipment off of us so it wouldn't fall on our heads, because there had been cases, where we had like hold on to your amplifiers, and like fucking amps would go flying and hit you in the fucking head. So, uh, it's one of the times I got my nose broken. A fucking Fender twin reverb fell off of really high shelf. A twin reverb weighs like 89 pounds or something. It fell right on my nose like this, like crunch. It's one of the times my nose has been flattened. So, uh, we wanted to. So now we're gonna go. We're gonna get out on the road again and go out there and do a worm tour. Of course, it was great. We played Kent. We played all our mainstays like Beloit and Kent, and then it's one night we'd be playing someplace like the Puker and Beloit, people going nuts. And then the next night we would be playing for three people, with these big screen TVs on. So it was like the ups and downs of being who we were. But we did the Worm tour, and it was like in the fall, and then and it was like the usual rock and roll craziness of sanity. But then we got back to Nightingale's. Nightingale's was padlocked. We had nowhere to put our equipment. So it was like usually when people didn't want to carry their equipment, they'd be like, "Hey Simon, carry it for me, take it back to the house," and I have to get a cab and drag it home or something like that. So we just had to put all the equipment at our little tiny like fucking studio apartment in Ludlow Street. Was we had, and then Nightingale's got shit because they decided they were going to enforce the cabaret law where you couldn't have drums or horns or more than three people on a stage. And like cops raided the club, and the fire department were raiding the club, and I mean, I don't know if anybody's watching. This is America. Everything is fucking corrupt. Everything runs on like payoffs, graft, who's paying off who's greasing off who. So somebody wasn't greasing somebody off, and the city, they got in this big, you know, gentrification thing. I remember I used to see the people like, the yuppies, they had the power tie and a big brick cell phone and shit. So maybe they were just trying to get rid of all of us fucking sketchy people down in the east side, I don't know. But we get down there, and so now we got nowhere to play. So first of all, Greg's kind of out of the picture. He just went squadouche, right? Curtis dies, and now we got nowhere to play. And then we had to try to split it into two bands, right? So Jono would go play one night, and I'd play another night. So, not for nothing, but the bass player, Jerry and Milo were working both nights because, we need the bass and the drums. So they weren't getting hit as hard. It's not nothing like they were trying to fucking capitalize on it or anything, but they weren't suffering as bad. And it was like at this point, I was 27 or 28, and it was like the way I'd lived my entire fucking life was catching up with me. Not so much drugs as mentally. Like I just was, all the things about me that don't function were really not functioning, man. I was just like depressed all the time, angry all the time. I'd been going to check out like a lot of hardcore. I kind of got back into hardcore when the Worms started getting really occupied and everything, and we had to just do that. I just was doing that, and I really wasn't checking out a lot of the hardcore bands that were out. And I started going back. I came back to punk, like straight up fucking punk. I just needed that energy, and I kind of started like just being a dick, like losing my temper. I remember yelling at Jerry one night and yelling at Milo, and cops came in and raided us. And then there was something in Nightingales where you weren't allowed to dance. So I'm playing and people start dancing, and the bouncers are trying to stop them from dancing. And I was like, no, let them dance. Fuck this shit. But fuck this shit. Let them dance. Like, I'm an anarchist. I don't I'm not gonna like no dancing because the fucking government says no dancing. Like fuck you, you know. So there was this whole big thing, and then just I lost my temper, and it was like I just kind of like my unhealthy and self-centered way of dealing with frustrations and dealing with situations just came to a fucking head. Like the entire existential zit of me just popped. So I left the Worms. I just said, you know, I left the Worms and I wanted to start a punk band or something. And I just was so delusional at that point because it was like, you know, it never dawned. You know, I was like looking at all these other bands that were successful, like the Replacements, the Minutemen, uh, and bands like that. And I was like, I want to be doing that. I want to just be playing like, you know, that kind of stuff, you know. And meanwhile, I wasn't playing nothing, you know. And then I started I quit the Worms and I kind of started getting really depressed. I started playing with Barbecue Bob and the Spare Ribs. And at that point, I went back to playing with them and they were just totally fucking coked out. Like, they were just coked out. Like, and I never had any money, so I couldn't keep up with them. So I would have like my, you know, I always hated Coke, you know. It was like a fucking waste of time. And now I'm doing like 2 lines of it and then just crashing and getting depressed and there's no more coke. You know, these guys are all spending their whole fucking paychecks on it and shit. And I didn't have that kind of money, you know. I was always kind of like a nickel and dime drug abuser, like, you know, barely enough to rustle up a nickel bag, you know. And I just remember lots of crazy fucking shit with Bob, like just oh man, there was this guy Rocky, and he was like the band's coke dealer, and we had to go drive him around and do some favors for him and his girlfriend, and they gave us like the Rock of Gibraltar. I mean, it was like you never seen nothing like it. They were like, so I started just being a fucking dick, you know, like it's usually I think you could tell where the story's headed, right? Once the coke comes into the picture, like I always hated this shit. You know, like now I'm 27. I should be a fucking mature person already. Instead, I'm being a fucking stunard, you know? So then I had these fantasies about starting a punk band and playing hardcore matinees and CBGBs, and it never dawned on me that like even the Worms were making 50 or 60 bucks a night. That was more money than a whole punk band was going to get paid anywhere. You know what I mean? Like these bands were either they were playing for nothing or they were getting ripped off for every fucking penny. Just ask these guys. They get ripped off fucking for everything they ever fucking generated. None of it got back to them, right? So it's like, you know, I don't want to get into anybody else's business, so sorry, but you know, I've heard the stories about them getting ripped off and shit, and like a lot of people, and so like, what the fuck, you know? And I didn't go about it. It wasn't like, okay, write songs, find good players, rehearse, start a punk band, get out there, have a good time. I just was in this fantasy world. The drugs didn't help, and you know, those drugs make you depressed. Drugs like coke, they just leave you like chemically depressed. They're like shitty. So then my friend from Philadelphia that that was my guitar jamming friend from school that me and him stole the Jaguar XKE, right? Now it's like 10 years later, like, and he all of a sudden comes to my house from Philadelphia, and like, Philadelphia was a big speed town, okay? Much more than New York. New York, they were doing coke. Philly, they were doing speed, and it's like I had done speed before when I was playing with Ivan, but you know, I'm listening to a lot of Motorhead and the Damned and these other bands that were doing a shit. Johnny Rotten doing a shit ton of speed. I was like, you know. And then he comes to my house and he was like, "Hey, we just robbed this drugstore." It's like this guy really was a good thief. I mean, he stole a fucking Jaguar. Now he's robbed a drugstore. You know, like, and he had these two fucking like Converse All-Star shoe boxes like this. And he just said, "Hey man, here's for your 28th birthday. Happy birthday." And it had this shit in it. It had disoxins, like bottles of them, like like hundreds of them. And they're these speeds. You take them there in this like plastic matrix, and they're time release. So you take them, and you're just like fucking up for like 12 hours or whatever, right? And they're strong. Then he had Dilaudid. That's what killed Elvis and killed Lenny Bruce. And I was like, Dilaudid, wow, if this killed Lenny Bruce, this is for me. Then he had these big cubes of amphetamine sulfate powder. Like, I guess they make pills out of them or compound pills out of them. But then he had these big cubes of morphine and new morphine, which I guess is fake morphine, and then he had this bottle tincture of opium. They make cough syrup out of it, and it had a skull and crossbones on the fucking front of it. I remember that shit. So like now I've got speed and smack, and I got two fucking boxes. Look, there's no drugs in here. There's like guitar strings and a fucking capo in here and shit. But that's how much I had. Two boxes. He came to my house. We hung out. We did some of them, and then he split. I never saw the guy again. I talked to him once on the phone. He wound up doing some fucking time, and then he became a Jesus freak. And wherever you are, man, thanks for being you. But I mean, the guy came to my house all the way from Philadelphia, just like speeding out of his fucking brains, and he gave me. So now I've got no plan, no self-discipline, two shoe boxes full of death narcotics, and I think you know where this story's gonna head. I, I'm gonna get back to practicing now, but I hope you boys and girls enjoy these New York stories. And I gotta tell you, I was like a dope fiend for fucking 14 years, right? That was the best fucking score I ever pulled off. That's like, you never fucking. Sometimes, it's like you just know you're not gonna beat something. You do something in your life, you know you're not gonna fucking beat it, man. That was the beginning of the end, motherfucker. All right, love you. Hope you enjoyed it. Make some fucking comments, or at least tell me hello in the comments or something, or tell me to go fuck myself, whatever you want. And we'll see you on the next one.